The loss to Crystal Palace at the weekend, as I talked about in the previous video, I felt like was a big moment actually for Graham Potter to realise the task at hand at West Ham, that it is that great. There is so much to do. I don't. Potter's not naive. I don't think you'd have come to this club under the illusion that this was going to be a comfortable, easy task to take on. There was no way that was going to be the case. It was always going to be the fact that you're picking up a club that's in decline. West Ham have been in decline for 3 years, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm including when we won the trophy in that, which seems a bit strange to say that, in decline when you're winning your first trophy in 40 odd years. But I think it is true, because that season that we won the Conference League, we were in a relegation battle for the majority of the season. So I think it's fair to say that we are a club in decline, and we have been now for some time. Yes, we finished 9th last season, but again, it was a tough old slog, wasn't it? Last season, we took some real hammerings. In fact, I think we broke our record, didn't we, last season for the most goals conceded we've conceded in the Premier League season. That just tells you all you got to know, that there is a big problem at this club, and we're seeing it again this season. The introduction of having Tim Steidten at the club and having a bit more of a slick recruitment model, etc., it doesn't appear to be worked. Well, it certainly hasn't worked so far. There's a few signings in here that are very questionable. One of them is Mavropanos. I think I have to say, I appreciate it isn't in the summer. That was prior to that, but I think it's a signing that needs to be questioned as well. And it's just frustrating when I'm not here just digging out Mavropanos. I think that's harsh on him, but I just feel like the situation we find ourselves in with him is that we've got a player that's just continually causing issues by his mistakes and his lack of concentration in games. It's becoming very exhausting now, isn't it? It's getting to a stage now where every time you watch him play, you're like, oh God, what's going to happen now? And I'm getting fed up with that now. I could tolerate it when he's second choice. When he's on the bench, he comes on occasionally, I can kind of live with that, because he's not a bad backup defender. When you're relying on him for 90 minutes week in, week out, it's worrying, because it doesn't seem to be changing. We seem to be having the same issues with Mavropanos time and time again, and it's not resolving. So the situation, I feel like that in terms of that Palace game, though, I feel like it's probably shifted the focus a little bit from the club and possibly Graham Potter into what's needed this month. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that West Ham realistically now as a club, and I'm being just generally honest here, I don't think West Ham will be looking at this season thinking we can get European football. I think realistically, and I think it's fair, there are clubs that are ahead of us and deserve it more than we do. They're far more consistent. You've only got to look at what Bournemouth did at Newcastle. I mean, these teams have been far better than us this season. There are many more, including Newcastle as well, that are just performing better and look far more equipped, more settled, and more deserving of European football for next season. I think that's fair. I think for West Ham to now go in and get a place in European football, it's going to take a hell of a turnaround, isn't it? And I just don't feel it. Generally, me, I said this in the previous video, I feel like that loss to Palace just sort of, it put that cannonball for me through that a little bit, that feeling of, yeah, there's still dreaming of 8th. It hasn't quite died yet. I felt like that was kind of like a bit of the nail in the coffin for me. But what it does do, what it's done now, it's given Graham Potter now a new perspective of how things are at West Ham and what needs fixing. And there's a fair amount, isn't there? Let's be honest. There's a lot to fix at this club, and there's a lot of deep issues at the football club at the moment, especially in terms of our playing staff and the issues where we are experiencing. Players are simply not good enough, not quite fit in, etc. But defence now, I think, is a big problem. Whereas before, if you remember, the priority was striker, midfielder. I think centre-backs now is coming to the fold. I think it's going to be more urgent, actually, than possibly even a striker and a midfielder. And the reason I say that is because we've got players returning. And, in terms of Jared Bowen, got Somerville coming back, etc. I feel like they may think, well, actually, the centre-back pairing is what we need to address, because the situation with Kilman and Mavropanos, in my opinion, it's just not good. It's not a good scenario at all. It's not a good partnership. The dynamics between the pair doesn't work. I don't think that Kilman trusts Mavropanos and vice versa, because I feel like Kilman requires that more senior or more dominating character next to him to take charge of the back line. I feel like he will respond better to that. I feel like when he's asked to do that, he struggles. And Mavropanos just isn't trustworthy anymore. We cannot keep relying on him. He's of course missing now the Aston Villa game, which is even more alarming because now we've been told about Todibo. So I want to talk about that. But before I go into Todibo, if you're new to the channel, maybe you're not new, but you just haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. It really does only take 2 seconds. It helps the channel grow. It gets people recognising us further and gets more audience here. And of course, hit that like button, because that does exactly the same. When you hit that like button and the likes go up, it then goes onto general feeds. People go, oh, West Ham news. Oh, I'll watch a bit of that. So it's really appreciative if you do so. So yeah, and also we do appreciate your support and being part of this journey, which is being a West Ham. What more do you want? Always a joy, isn't it? So we've had an update from Graham Potter in regards to Todibo, and it's not good. Surprisingly, it's not good. When is it ever? So it turns out that we've got a 2 to 3 month layoff period now for Todibo, which is a huge blow. That really is. I didn't really not what we want to be hearing. It sounds like he's got a calf issue. Probably sounds like the same one that Cornet had. It sounds a little bit like that. He's gone back to France as well. He went back to France, didn't he? So did Todibo. So we're not going to have Todibo available for weeks and weeks, possibly 12 weeks. I mean, which is ridiculous when you think about it. And it leaves us in a very vulnerable position as a club because, as I say, we've got Max Kilman, who's out of form, looking vulnerable. You've got Mavropanos, who's also suspended at the moment for the next game, but so accident prone in terms of what he's doing around the pitch. He's just very untrustworthy at the moment, very clumsy. And then what we turn into, my opinion is Caelan Casey. That's where I'd like to go with it. But the only concern we've got with that is if putting Casey in, he's then got to be partnering Kilman, and is Kilman going to feel comfortable? I'm not convinced he will be. But I feel like for the short terms, definitely, Casey has to come in. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity for him. I really feel like this will be one that Potter will go to. I mean, we've already seen that he has trust in the academy. We've seen it against Palace. Even when we're losing, he's bringing on academy players. When do we see that at West Ham? When was David Moyes doing that? Lopetegui wasn't doing it. Moyes certainly didn't. We haven't had it for a long time at West Ham, and now we've got a head coach's trust in the academy, and I feel like he's going to have to put a trust here. And this is big trust. Centre back position at Premier League football is a tall order, but I don't think we've got any other options. I really don't. I feel like this is the way to go as well. I think it would be the sensible approach, because at the end of the day, like I say, if we're kind of not writing off the season, I hate that phrase, but kind of taking away the kind of pressures now of going, right, we've got to get 8th, we've got to get it, accepting the fact that the reality is we're probably not going to get there. We obviously want to develop what we've got here. We've got a period now where we can stabilise things, and the Potter can get to use this team, understand where we are, so we can go into the summer and we can get things addressed properly. But I think for the short term, definitely, Caelan Casey needs to step in. It'd be a wonderful opportunity for him. It really would, to see Casey getting into this team. I mean, look at the response you got from seeing Lewis Orford run out with Ollie Scholes. It's just fantastic. It's what we're about as a club. We want to see our academy boys do well. We're the academy of football. We want to see it. And I just get the feeling that Casey, I actually would feel a lot more comfortable with seeing Caelan Casey partnering Kilman than I would Mavropanos. That's just where I am at the moment with him, which is it's a real shame, because I really like Mavropanos. I do. I think he's got the attributes to be a really decent Premier League defender. I think he's got the attributes even to be a cult hero at West Ham. Do you know what I mean? He's quite a likeable guy, Greek. I just think he fits in nice to the club. It's just these errors. They're just never ending. And he looks like a bloke that's out of form anyway in terms of his confidence level. So I really feel like we need to make a big shift here. We're going into Aston Villa at the weekend on Sunday, which is going to be a hell of a tough game. The team that are pushing for Champions League football once again. They're in the Champions League as it is this season. They've got high expectations, and it's a tall order. But I'll tell you what, I think I get the feeling from Graham Potter that he's willing to take the chance. He's willing to give these players a go. And that's where I feel like this needs to happen now with Casey. I feel like that this back line needs addressing and needs it fast. Now, I think that there's going to be an urgency to do something this January to fix this. As I say, Todibo's out for a long period of time. We don't know how long it's going to be. It seems to be one of those mystery injuries that we're not quite sure of. They're just saying it's a calf injury. So make of that what you will. But we've been here before with Max Kilman. Remember, the calf injury going to be a couple of weeks, and he was out for about 6 months. So yeah. I'm not feeling overly confident about it, but it means having Todibo out now means we've got to address it. Because my hope was that Todibo was getting closer because we'd seen him at the ground and he was in the dugout with the players. I thought, oh, maybe he's not too far away. But it turns out that the reason for that is because Graham Potter wants players together. He wants this team ethic. He wants them all together, which I love. I love having that. But what it's done is it's given me a full sense of security in terms of him coming back, which isn't true. So he is now going to be out for a period of time, Todibo, which is a big blow because I think him and Kilman work a lot better than Mavropanos and Kilman. Hence why, I'm calling for, and I feel like it's the right thing to have Caelan Casey come forward for this game, unless, of course, West Ham can bring someone in sooner, more senior, to step in prior to them. But again, I've been impressed with Casey. I really have. I think he's looked a really good player. When we've called upon him before, he looks good. He doesn't look out of place. He looks assured. He's comfortable on the ball. And at the end of the day as well, I think West Ham fans are forgiving. I think us West Ham fans know that if you're going to give these players a chance, these younger players, then they're going to make mistakes. That's part and parcel of development. They're not going to jump on your back. They're not going to hammer you. So I think it will be a worthwhile sort of venture for Potter to go with Casey, get him in there. Look, if it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, look, it's part of experience. Got to go with it. But I mean, certainly for the sort of short term now, for the next few games, I do not want to be seeing Mavropanos and Kilman as a partnership because I don't think it works at all. Anyway, transfer news. We're going to have some bits and pieces coming out. There's a few developments happening. There's also developments going on behind the scenes in terms of Potter's training room staff, in terms of getting building that. So there's obviously a lot of backing at the moment to Graham Potter, but we're going to talk about those in other videos. But yeah, until then, come on your irons.